25% of people in mortgage forbearance are either in early or late stages of default. Hey everybody, Scott Walters, welcome to the channel. If you're new, I want to welcome you here. If you're returning, I want to thank you for your continued support. Before we get into today's topic, I'm going to politely ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Please watch to the end for what should be my final thought and hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos are released. It's very important to stay close to the channel in these ever changing times. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. Another doozy, just another, when you think things couldn't get any more weird, they just get weirder. Like I've said before, fact is stranger than fiction, all thanks to the courtesy of this pandemic and the government injecting ridiculous amounts of parachuted stimulus money into our economy, inflating all investment markets artificially to the point now where we get to deal with a bubble in every one of them. And like we all know, what goes up must come down. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that these markets are inflated and are of high crash risk. This is before we segue into the topic, folks. I really have to give some narrative, continue to give narrative as I sound the alarm and really just try to wake up as many people as possible. And listen, folks, I'm a real estate investor. I'm a real estate landlord. I'm a real estate agent. I love real estate. I think most of you understand that from me. But the one, and so I don't want to come here and talk people out of buying or selling property. That is not what I'm here to do. Again, my position was early on when I came to YouTube was really I didn't want to see new home buyers spend their life savings on a minimum down payment or one blip in the economy or their income would throw them into a tailspin and they would end up dragging a depreciated asset along for the ride until ultimately they would have to give it back to the bank. And guess what, folks? Guess what? When I started sounding that alarm, what we've seen since then now are these global economic cracks in our economy and inflation going through the roof. There is many home buyers that were first-time home buyers qualifying for the minimum amount down, big mortgage payments, and since they got into those homes, and many of them borrowed money from mom and dad because the property wouldn't appraise out for what they were buying it for, and so they had to make up their difference themselves in the tunes of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now guess what's happening to these poor first-time home buyers? They're underneath huge payments and they're forced back to work, and gas prices are going through the roof, and kids are having to go to school and childcare or whatever. And so guess what? They now are basically seeing their dollar not go as far, and they're probably already operating on fumes, and we are just entering into these market shifts. We've seen a stabilization in prices. They are no longer going at euphoric levels over asking price. On average, they're going for around asking price. If they're priced right, if a real estate agent did a market analysis and said, based on today's sales, this is what your house is worth, that's the price we should come on at. And what I'm seeing is properties either going off market at a slightly under asking price, at asking price, or slightly over asking price, on average right around asking price. And guess what, folks? The property has hit the values have hit a ceiling, and we're now flatlined. Some of you, I'm sure you're going to tell me, oh, we're still seeing tons of properties going off market for over asking price. Barely over. That's my answer to you. Barely over asking price. There's probably some isolated areas where some dumb overpaid significantly. But on average, as a whole, friends, nationally, flatlining. That's what we're seeing. Market shift is what we're seeing. And guess what's going to happen? Like we talk about on this channel, is fiscal cliffs in the form of eviction bans, mortgage forbearance, unemployment benefits, and that, just to name a few, that are ending now. So as we end these programs, the blowback now is going to come. And like I've said before, maybe not one of those fiscal cliffs will crash the market, but all of them collectively could. And guess what? Even one of them will cause some market shifts, and that's what we're seeing now. Eviction bans have ended, foreclosure bans are ending, and that's what's going to segue me right now into today's topic. Like I've said before, as a card-carrying MLS member and licensed realtor, get targeted by the big heavy hitter banks right now to help them onboard new agents or existing agents, long-time agents. They don't care if you're a licensed agent, to be trained to sell distressed properties. Right now, they've seen a rise in delinquent loans at 25%. And what that says to me is, what they're seeing is the people that now have to start making their mortgage payments, out of all of them, 25% have not done it. And so here's the scary part. If you have, and that's 25%, that's not enough to crash the market. You might say, well, hey, Scott, out of the 2 million people in mortgage forbearance, only 25% are not making their payment. Well, that's not that bad. It's bad. It's bad for a couple of reasons, but number one is this is just starting. So some people socked away some of their money when they weren't making their payment, and they're able to resume payments. But that, when their nest egg goes away and they can't figure it out, and they don't have the means now, the income, and their cost of living has gone up, so they've had to dip into that, and they took a little vacation to blow off a little pandemic steam, maybe bought a new car, maybe, ate out every meal. Eventually, more people are going to be not paying. So the bank's trying to get ahead of the curve, because believe me, like I've said before, the banks are very efficient when it comes to offloading properties. It's not like, some little, mom and popper that has a rental or two. These banks are going to minimize risk as quickly as possible and get to market and get these assets liquidated and off their books. So that's number one, what we're seeing. We're already seeing it right away. 25% of people that are supposed to be making their payments are not doing it. Whether they can or they can't, they're not. That's the important thing. Second thing, this is the one that I believe, and I think I said this in our last video, because of the digital diet we're on today, much different than 2008. So what blindsides us is probably much different than the two. It's always something different, just so you know. Otherwise, we'd have a playbook for this one. We don't have a playbook for this one. This was government stimulus and banks unable to foreclose on properties, and people able to stop making their payments, and people able to stop paying their rent, and people being paid more to stay at home than go to work. Tell me when that's happened before. I'm waiting. Leave it in the comments below. This is significantly different. And so one of the things that I say a lot here is the digital diet that we are on today versus 2008. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that first foreclosure in America, and some poor family gets pushed out to the curb, forced out of the house. And here we are now watching the social unrest. How can you do that? You can't do that to these people. And I don't know about you folks. I'm already seeing a massive shift. Here in California, we can't call them homeless. They're the unhoused. Because we're giving free handouts to people. What incentive are we giving them to go back to work or whatever? There is more and more people ending up on the streets. And what we're going to see is, if this grabs some headlines, which I believe, like I've said before, this one will. This is now the banks, the heavy hitters that have no compassion. None. For you, they do not care about you folks. I hope you understand that. They are only concerned with themselves and their investors. You have no value to them if you're not making your payment. You will end up on the streets. I don't know how else to like I've said before, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I am pulling no punches. I am trying to explain this. And so the reality is even though some markets are different, some are hotter, some are colder, this and that, because of herd mentality, the digital diet that we're on, and one trending headline could definitely create herd mentality. What's going to happen? Couple things could happen. People get pushed out of their house, foreclosure proceedings start. Well, the mainstream media will grab onto that one and try to juice it for everything it's worth. Two is activist groups that are now going to be upset that people didn't make their payment and they're supposed to make their payment and can't, and now they have to leave their house. Well, that won't be fair to many activists. This can got kicked down the road way too far. And final thoughts, folks. All I'm doing here is sounding the alarm, waking people up. This is not a normal market as much as I want it to be. I really wish this was a normal market, because I could go back to just promoting rainbows and sunshine and walking you down the aisle into that big fat payment and make my commission and send you on your way. This is not that time. Things will change. Things are changing. If you were on the sidelines, congratulations. Congratulations for not jumping out there. Now again, I've told you before, I am here to help people, and everybody's different. And right now, there is opportunity out there to buy if you do it correctly, like investment property with an investment group where you're minimizing risk, because you're all coming in with some money and you're going to be like, hey, how hurt can we get? We only put this much down. We didn't drain our bank accounts. The rent will cover its payment. I like that strategy. So do a lot of my clients. Like I've reported before, a lot of my clients are tapping out, getting rid of some. You know what? We're at the height of the market. Let's offload a couple of these properties. In fact, let's just go jump in a rental, see what happens here. Why not? Strategies, folks. This is not a one-size-fits-all real estate market. But one thing I can assure you of is there are some changes coming, and my goal is to position as many of you to be able to either weather this storm, capitalize on it when buying opportunity comes, or at least it not be a deer in the headlight when it does come. So you can say, nobody warned me. I'm warning you, folks. Please be careful in these times. Insulate yourself with as much cash as possible. Do not dump all your wealth into the stock and crypto markets, as tempting as it is. We've all heard the stories of the get rich quick schemes. They don't work. You will lose. The house will win. And right now, folks, you're playing with the house's money in the form of stimulus. Save that money, keep it on the sidelines, get some friends together, create an investment group, go in with your pinky toe. Don't go all in this market if you go in at all. So I hope that helps a little bit. If you enjoyed the content, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. Thanks for checking it in. Go make it count. We'll see you on the next video.